Top 10 Most Evil Children in History. 10. Byrton Gibbs. In September 2010, Gibbs called Pizza Hut and placed an order to be delivered to a vacant apartment. When 33-year-old Christopher Taylor arrived with the pizza, Gibbs stabbed him to death with a kitchen knife. District Court Judge Mark Ashford described it as murder for sport. He was sentenced to 80 years for second-degree murder and 20 years for using a weapon to commit a felony. He will be eligible for parole at 67. 9. Jasmine Richardson. Jasmine Richardson was 12 when she brutally murdered her parents and younger brother in April of 2006. It was discovered that she had lured her boyfriend, 23-year-old Jeremy Stunk, into helping with the murder so that she could live with him. Both Jasmine and Jeremy had an interest in goth culture, monsters, and vampires. Her first known communication about the crime was a message to Jeremy that said, "I have this plan. It begins with me killing them and ends with me living with you." She was sentenced to 10 years in prison. 8. Rachel Shoaf and Sheila Eddy. On the night of July 6, 2012, 16-year-old Skylar Niece snuck out of her Star City, West Virginia home and never returned. 6 months later, one of Niece's best friends, Rachel Shoaf, confessed to murdering Niece with their other friend, Sheila Eddy. She led police to Niece's remains in a rural wooded area over the Pennsylvania state line. Shoaf told authorities she and Eddy planned the murder while in science class because they didn't like her. Shoaf said the plan was to count to 3, then stab her to death. Eddy was sentenced to life in prison. Shoaf was sentenced to 30 years. 7. Jesse Pomeroy. Jesse was 14 when he was arrested in 1874 for the murder of a 4-year-old boy. 3 years earlier, he sexually tortured 7 other boys, for which he was sentenced to a children's reform school and released early. He was labeled the Boston Boy Fiend. Then he mutilated and killed a 10-year-old girl who came into his mother's store. A month later, he kidnapped a 4-year-old boy, took him to a swamp outside of town and brutally murdered him. When he was shown the body and asked if he'd done it, he responded with a nonchalant, "I suppose I did." He was sentenced to death, but following a public outcry against condemning children to death, he was sentenced to 40 years of solitary confinement. 6. Joshua Phillips. In 1998, 14-year-old Joshua bludgeoned his 8-year-old neighbor to death and hid her body under his bed. His mother discovered the body 7 days later. Joshua claimed he'd accidentally hit Maddie in the eye with his baseball bat, causing her to scream. In his panic he dragged her home, hit her again, and stabbed her 11 times. The story failed to convince a Florida jury, who convicted him of first-degree murder. His mother is still appealing his conviction due to him being given an adult penalty for his crime. 5. The King brothers. In 2001, Alex King, 12, and Derek King, 13 bludgeoned their father to death with a baseball bat while he was sleeping. Then they set the house on fire in an effort to cover up the crime. The brothers soon confessed to committing the murder, but implicated 41-year-old convicted child molester Ricky Chavis, whom they said was involved in a sexual relationship with Alex and persuaded them to kill their father. Alex and Derek were sentenced to 7 and 8 years in state prison, respectively. Chavis was sentenced to 35 after he was found guilty of accessory. 4. Michael Carneal. In December 1997, Carneal wrapped a shotgun and rifle in a blanket and took them to school, passing them off as a school project. He also had a pistol in his backpack. His sister gave him a ride to school, and when he arrived, he took the pistol out of his bag. He fired 8 rounds at a youth prayer group. 3 girls died and 5 others were wounded. Carneal placed his pistol on the ground and surrendered to the school principal. After dropping the gun, he said, "Kill me, please. I can't believe I did that." He was sentenced to life in prison. 3. Mary Bell. In May 1968, the day before her 11th birthday, Mary Bell was convicted for strangling a young boy named Martin Brown. Then in July 1968, Mary and her friend Norma Bell murdered 3-year-old Brian Howe, again by strangulation. Police reports concluded that Mary had gone back after killing him to carve an M into his stomach with a razor. She also used scissors to cut off bits of his hair and part of his genitals. Martin Brown's death was initially ruled an accident. Eventually, his death was linked with Brian Howe's, and in August, the two girls were charged with 2 counts of manslaughter. Mary was released in 1980 with court-ordered anonymity. In 2003, she and her daughter were awarded anonymity for life. 2. Nathaniel Brazill. On the last day of school in May 2000, Nathaniel, an honor roll student, shot his favorite teacher Barry Gunrow in the head. Nathaniel turned 14 when he attended his trial. He admitted to police that he brought a handgun to school. When he was confronted by the teacher, he pulled out the gun, shot him, and fled as the teacher lay dying. He was unable to give a reason why he did it. He was sentenced to 28 years in jail. 1. John Venables and Robert Thompson. John and Robert were both 10 years old and had been stealing things all day at the shopping center. Then they decided to steal 2-year-old James Bulger. Video cameras at the mall caught several images of James in the hands of his killers. He was taken on a long, aimless walk, cruelly tortured along the way. He was senselessly beaten to death by his captors, who callously abandoned him on the railroad tracks. Thompson and Venables served 8 years in a juvenile facility and were released when they turned 18. Both have been given new identities for protection. Venables is on his 4th false identity at an estimated cost of $1 million to taxpayers.